Hey y'all, Jen here from PepperHarrow. Today we're going to be talking about how to start gorgeous lupin from seed. Okay, after you have let your seeds soak for a good 24 hours in water, we're going to take these seeds and I just give it a little swirl because usually there's a few seeds that are like floating on the top. And if it's floating on the top, that usually means the seed is bad, but I try to give it a little stir just to see. Sometimes they just haven't gotten equally moist. So I'll give it a little swirl. And in this case, there were some that originally had been sitting on top. Now they've all gone to the bottom. And so all of these seeds are viable, which you can probably see. There's none floating at the top. The next thing I'm going to do is drain this water off, and we're going to get our seeds started in seed starting medium. I have a 72 cell tray ready and I have my seeds right beside it. The next thing I'm going to do is water in my seed starting medium. I always do this before I start my seeds. I like it to be pretty moist before I get started, just to make sure it's not too dry. Lupin germinates really well for me, so I only put one seed per cell. A couple of them have two, but for the most part I put one in each cell. If you want to kind of hedge your bets and guarantee that each cell will be filled, go ahead and put two seeds per cell just to kind of like have a backup plan. But for me, I find that lupin germinates so efficiently and effectively that I just need to put one per cell. The next thing I'm going to do now that I have all my seeds set in place is I am going to push them about a fourth of the way down into the seed starting medium. Okay, y'all, so I just gave my lupin a little bit more of a water in. Instead of going and recovering each little seed up, I just re-water in and the medium collapses on top of the seed and just does the trick for me. I don't have to go and like cover each hole up individually. This is the easiest way to do it. Okay, now that I have my lupin set, I'm going to set my little tray here under some grow lights, which I'll show you here in a second. I'm going to keep the temperature at 70 degrees minimum in here. Sometimes a little bit warmer helps them just a little bit. I am starting my lupin pretty early. I am zone 5B in central Iowa. My last frost date is not until May 15th. And it is mid-January at this point. So I'm definitely starting my lupin just a smidge early. But I'm doing that because I usually like to do my perennials early to make sure that I have my perennials all seed started. I put a lot of emphasis on my annuals. So to get my perennials started and to get them nice and big, ready to go into the ground before they're really ready, that's what works for me. So I like to have my seedlings be a little bit bigger. I'm starting my lupin a little bit earlier. Typically, I wouldn't normally start them until March. So I'm doing it a couple months early just to make sure I have some big plants. I plan on selling some at farmer's market and planting some in the ground. Now that I have my lupin pressed and covered down into my seed starting medium, the next thing I'm gonna do is cover it with a closed bottom tray. Lupin is one of the seeds that likes dark to germinate. So to create that dark environment, I put it not under a direct grow light, but I put it in my nice warm growing space and I cover it like this with a closed tray. And so now you can see I have a nice closed tray on top that helps aid with the dark to be able to germinate these seeds. My seeds should germinate and start popping up within, I don't know, like 7 to 14 days or something like that. I usually have a lot of success with lupin and I feel like they kind of pop up more on the 7-day side rather than 14. It really depends on the seed size and I think that depends on whatever color it is. I'm like, the bigger ones have to be colors I don't want and the smaller ones are totally ones that I want tons of colors of. I don't know. That always just seems to be how it works. But 7 to 14 days, I should see seeds start to pop up. Once everybody has germinated in there, I'm going to take the top off of that shell, the seed starting tray that you saw. I'm going to take that off and I'm going to let them get some exposure to the light under a grow light here in my grow room space. One important thing to know about lupin is that all parts of the plant are poisonous. We get questions all the time about poisonous plants in bouquets, and lupin is one of those. So you have to be careful and make sure to warn your customers if you're actually putting lupin in your bouquets. We always communicate to customers bouquets that are not pet safe. Most of the flowers we grow are, but lupin happens to be one of the ones that are not. There's a few that are actually on this list. It's great to be able to be educated and to know this in advance, or if you're just a home gardener and don't want to put any kind of poisonous plants in your garden, lupin is not for you. However, it is incredibly beautiful and one of the most popular flowers that we grow for cut flower bouquets, and I'm sure you can see why from some of the pictures that we're going to show here. One additional tip that I have for lupin also is that it doesn't necessarily like to be transplanted. Last year I actually bought plugs of lupin, and oh my gosh, it did not like being transplanted from the little cell trays that I got into the ground. A lot of my little babies died. So when you're transplanting your seed starts that you're starting inside outdoors, you need to be very careful. You need to make sure, first of all, that your seedlings are hardened off. That means, exposed to the elements, the sun, the wind, all that good stuff. Do not put them out there tender before they're ready to go out. Make sure they're nice and hardened off. And then the other thing you need to do is make sure that you do not disrupt their little taproot before you plant them in the ground. The taproot is really what doesn't like to be disrupted. So as much as you can make your little root ball intact and not disrupted when you go to transplant, the better. Another tip I have is that I have found that my lupin has done best in full sun. But they are full sun, part shade. But when you see part shade, that means that they need to get at least 6 hours of sunshine. Totally doable. Most spots that you can find a spot that gets at least 6 hours of sun. But if you have a ton of shade, lupin is probably not for your garden. Sorry, guys. I know that's heartbreaking for a lot of people that have shady areas on in their yard. But this is one that definitely needs a lot of sun, so pay attention to that. And then another thing we usually have issues with is tent worms. You guys have probably heard me say that in other videos. You need to just, tent worms or cut worms, I'm not sure what it is, but it is like a moth that comes in and just decimates everything. So I always watch. It usually starts to happen around mid-June to early July. I'll see these little moth worms kind of start to take over, and they just eat everything, and it will literally kill the entire plant. So be on the lookout for that. You can treat with insecticidal soap, you can treat with neem oil, you can treat with soap and water, just killing those bugs off of there. But you definitely will have to take preventive action and make sure that you watch that. I used to field grow lupin out in my flower fields, but since I was having so many issues with those moths or worms or whatever they were, I brought them up near the house or in more of a protected spot, kind of a microclimate, if you will. I have not had any issues with those just being up near the house. So I don't know if they just haven't found the area, but take it from me, just be on the lookout and make sure that there's no pests attacking your lupins to make sure that you can be successful and keep on growing them. Once they're established, lupins are a perennial. They will come back up year after year and they will spread and go crazy. I have absolutely loved my lupins. Every year they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think plant spacing for these is like 18 to 24 inches or so. So make sure you leave them enough space so that they can really spread out and do a great job and look healthy and be beautiful for you. The thing I love best about lupin is its unique spike shape and just the really cool petals that come off of the bloom itself. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely incredible. And I think everybody looks at a lupin and thinks like, this is not something you see in a traditional bouquet. And it is absolutely unique and gorgeous. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you love lupin? Comment below. And if you liked today's video about starting lupin from seed, let me know as well. like and subscribe. Just smash that like button. It really does help us out so much. Thank you all for joining today, and happy growing.